श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं गुरु मे देव सर्वकार्ये सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजे गुरोगिणां निधे सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्ते नमः। व्यासम् अष्टनप्तारं शक्ते पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकदातं तपोनिधिम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। नारायणपरो व्यक्तादण्डमव्यक्तसम्भवो मण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकः सप्तद्वीपा च मेदिनी। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतं पुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीं बत्वामनुसन्दधां भगवद्गीते भवेद्वेषिणी। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। अवतीर्णश्च कालट्यां केदारेन्द्रहितश्च चतुष्पीठप्रतिष्ठाता गुरुः। We were previously looking at shlokas 7 and 8, and as part of that, we were looking at yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhidhanam dharmasya tadatmanam sridamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Bhagavan says, whenever there is dharma decreases, glani happens, then at that time, for that dharma's protection, I will come. And paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya dushkritam. So sadhu's protection and evil doers destruction, and dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yugege. For the establishing the dharma fully, for that purpose, I manifest myself in every yuga. So that's what Bhagavan says. Now, in these two shlokas, we see a word dharma, right? So, dharma is mentioned, and as Acharya said, Shankaracharya in his Bhashya said in the yada yada dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata, in that shloka, Shankaracharya gave the explanation as dharma as varnashramadi lakshanasya praninam abhidaya nishreyasa sadhanasya. So he said dharma is varnashrama dharma. So it is varnashrama duties. So the duties as per the varna and ashrama, which is the path, which is the means to abhidaya, moksha, which is the highest achievement. So that is the dharma. So now let's look at a little bit more detail on what this dharma means. Okay, so because dharma we use very loosely these days. Dharma, what is dharma? We use everything is called as dharma, right? So let's look at a little bit more in detail on what dharma means. Dharma, the word itself, it gives a meaning that dharayati iti dharmaha. That means that which upholds or sustains is dharma. Dharanat iti dharma. So that means again, the one that which is upholds, sustains, is practiced, adhered, maintained, supported is dharma. So what it is supporting then? What it is upholding? What it is practiced? So that is the question. So it is dharma is the one that upholds this entire creation, entire thing. And that's what dharma. And what is adhered to is the highest good. For the highest good is dharma. What one follows and what practices for the highest good, moksha, is dharma. That which is beneficial to oneself, to the family, to the village, to the country, to the world, is dharma. And dharma, that's why, is universal. It is not something similar to, say, for example, in English, when we say translate this word dharma in English, we get the word religion, right? So there is no other word. And many other languages as well, it's very difficult to translate word dharma into some other languages because dharma means dharma itself. There is no other meaning. we translate this as religion, but dharma is not religion. Religion is what is known as mata. Mata is uh, how one practices something. Okay, so mata, there are many of them, too many of them. Okay, we see matas, whether it is, you can call Hinduism as mata, you can call Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, and various other methods. Even today in our Hinduism, we see various sub parts to it, right? How we follow that path, what we think is the right and what we follow it. So that is mata. So dharma is the one universal. Whether it is Christianity or Jainism or Buddhism or whichever it is the same dharma. So the one that takes us towards the moksha, the only one that leads us to that moksha, and that is the welfare of all the creatures. That is the dharma, and dharma is what Vedas declare, and that's why the dharma, our dharma, the one we follow, is called Vaidika dharma. It is the universal dharma. It is the ancient dharma. It existed from the time of creation of this universe, or even before that, because it came from the Paramatma himself, and that's why it is known as Sanatana Dharma. Or dharma is, we call it as Sanatana Dharma, what we follow. So, mata, you can call whatever it is you want. But dharma is Sanatana Dharma. It applies to everybody. Whether they say it or not, it applies to everybody. So, what are these characteristics of this dharma? What are the definitions of that? When Krishna says dharma declines, what does that actually he means? Will the dharma ever decline? Or is it the practice of that dharma that declines? Hence, so that's what we need to look. And dharma, that's why we can say that when we see the decline of dharma, it is the practice of that dharma that declines. The following of that dharma, what is said in the Vedas, that's what declines. So that's why dharma can be said as a duty, conduct, morality, righteousness, virtue, and various other things you can call it. So these are all alternative words. So definition of what are these lakshana, what are the characteristics of these forms of this dharma. Manusmriti, for example, says, Dridikshama damo asteyam shocham indriya nigraha dhir vidya satyam akrodo dashakam dharma lakshanam. So, dhriti, steadiness, and then kshama, forgiveness, dhamma, self-control, asteyam, which is not stealing, okay, or abstention from unrighteous appropriation. So not accumulating wealth from looting from everybody and things like that, okay, or stealing as well. And then shaucham, purity, cleanliness. And then indriya nigraha, control of senses, dhir vidya, and discrimination. And then dhi, that is discrimination, vidya, knowledge, and then satya, truthfulness, and then akroda. So that is absence of anger. These are 10-fold forms of dharma. That's what Manusmriti says. And then Manu again simplifies this steadiness, forgiveness, self-control, not stealing, purity, control of sense organ, discrimination, knowledge, truthfulness, and absence of anger. These 10 he simplifies as ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, shocham, indriya nigraha, etam samasikam dharmam, chaturvarne abraveen manu. So Manu says that ahimsa, abstention from injury, truthfulness, abstention from unlawful appropriation or not stealing, purity, control of senses. These Manu declares that the sum of substance of duty of all the varnas, all the four chatur varnas, so Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. For everybody these apply. Ahimsa. So again, not injuring anybody. Truthfulness, Satya. So truthfulness again, one has to say the truth as long as it is conduct good for the better. Okay. Or keep quiet. And there are instances where you may be able to tell lie, untruth, but truthfulness has to be as per the Shastra. And then not stealing, asteyam, purity, okay, shaucha. And then Indriya Nigraha, control of the senses. These five, he says, is important. He's there as the common for everybody. And then Manu also says that Achahara Paramo Dharma Shrutyokta Smarta Evacha Tasmadasmin Sada Yukto Nityam Syadhatmavan Dvijaha. So he says that Achara, morality, right behavior is the highest Dharma. Achara Paramo Dharma. And that which is prescribed in the Shrutis and laid down in the Smritis, that Achara, that right behavior is the highest Dharma. Hence, Dvijas, the twice born Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, desiring of the welfare of the Atmas, should always intend upon the right behavior. That's what Manu says. And then he says that Veda Smriti Sadachara Swasya cha Priya Matmanaha Etat Chaturvidam Prahu Sakshat Dharmasya Lakshanam. So he again gives the Dharma's Lakshana, fourfold Lakshana, where it is said is Veda, Smritis, and practice of the cultured men, and what is agreeable to oneself. These four constitute the fourfold means of knowing the Dharma. So how do I know what is Dharma? There are fourfold means. Veda, Smriti, Sadachara, Swasya cha Priyamatmanaha. So Veda, what is said in the Vedas, what is said in the Smritis, and practice of the cultured men. So, and then the last one is what is agreeable to oneself. So the last one is difficult one. Okay. So when we say what is agreeable to oneself, it is not just randomly saying, I think this is right. You have to have the knowledge to say this is right. Okay. It is not just whatever that comes to mind, that is the Dharma. It is not that. One has to know that knowledge. So that knowledge comes again from Veda, Smriti, and practice of following the practice of the cultured men. Okay. So that's why it is important. And he also says that where there is conflict between the two Vedic tests, both should be held, both are to be held as Dharma. So Trididvaidam tu yatra syat tatra dharma ubhaus smruto. So he says that both are highly pronounced by the wise to be Dharma. So in some cases we see conflict. Okay, one sentence we say something, for example, I just said truth, one should say truth always, but when untruth should be told, one should not tell the truth, right? So there is conflict. So both should be held. So this again, wise men say that both are Dharma. So one should follow those things. And again, Yudhishthira also explains what is Dharma. For example, what the wise people have said and following them is the Dharma. So that's what Yudhishthira says. If you remember, in Vanaparva Yaksha Prashna, Yaksha asks a question saying, what is the path? And Yudhishthira says that arguments leads to no certain conclusion. The Shrutis are, because if you start arguing whether one should tell, for example, truth or untruth, there is no certain conclusion. And Shrutis are different from one another. So the Vedas or the Shrutis, what's said in one place may differ to another place, because the situation changes. Okay, the root or the core message of the Shrutis is same, but because the situation changes, the way that is followed changes. And Yudhishthira also says that there is not even one Rishi whose opinion can be accepted by all. Again, because of the situations. And the truth about the Dharma and duty is hid in the caves. Therefore, Yudhishthira says that therefore, that alone is the path along with the great have trodden. So the great people who have followed the path, that alone is the path one should follow. That is the Dharma path. So that's why the path one must follow should be in accordance with the Vedic test. One is prescribed to one's Varnashrama. And why Varnashrama is important? Again, we looked at previously in the Karma Yoga as well. Varam Swadharma, Manu also says the same thing. He says that Varam Swadharma Viguno na Parakya Swanushtitaha Paradharmena Jivan hi Sadhya Patati Jatitaha. better one's own duty imperfectly performed, and not duty of another performed perfectly. So he who subsists by function of another instantly falls off from his varna. So same thing we looked in the Karma Yoga, where Bhagavan says that Shreyan Swadharmo Vigna Paradharma Sunishtidat Swadharme Nidaram Shreya Paradharmo Bhayavaha. So that same thing Mano is also says. So that's why it is important to follow one's own dharma, one's own varnashrama dharma duties as said in. And one should follow the path of dharma in the quest of the supreme truth, the Atma Jnana, realizing that, and not in accumulation of wealth or satisfying the desires. And that's what Srimad Bhagavata Purana says. It says, Dharmasya hya apavargasya nartorta artha योपकल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मैकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय हि स्पृहः कामस्य नेन्द्रिय प्रीतिर्लाभो जीवेत यावता जीवस्य तत्व जिज्ञासा नार्थो चेह कर्मभिः. So dharma, understood as the supreme good of man, can never have wealth as its reward, nor wealth understood as an aid for achievement of the dharma. So if someone says, what the shloka is saying is, wealth is not the reward of dharma, okay? Because this dharma, following dharma's ultimate result is moksha. Wealth is not the reward. And also, wealth cannot be the means of achieving dharma. So if we cannot say that I'm going to first earn a lot of money, then I'm going to make donations. I'm going to give the gift. I'm going to do the danas to brahmanas after that, once I earn a lot of money. Or I'm going to build a temple. I'm going to donate. If I win that much money, I will donate this portion to, when I earn that much money, I will donate this portion to temples. Right? All these things are not right. So that's what it says. So again, that's again desire. That's related to the karma. That's the desire. And that karma, if one thinks that wealth is the root of dharma, that's the desire. And that karma in turn is not called indulgence and pleasures, but simply in inducement of implanted by the Creator Himself to make the life unbroken. Again, that karma results in this samsara, because we desires and desires never get fulfilled, and we take birth after birth. And as for life, it has the quest of supreme truth as its end. So life's main objective is supreme truth. So that's why that, and certainly not karma. And that's what Bhagavata Purana says. That's why wealth is not required for that attainment of that supreme truth. So dharma again here is saying clearly that dharma's object, ultimate, dharma, following dharma is the means, ultimate means, is the means for moksha. And in Shanti Parva Mahabharata as well, Bhishma explains to Yudhishthira on dharma. He says that no one in discoursing upon dharma can indicate what dharma is accurately. It is very difficult. As I said, give example of the truth, right? So there is no clear definition. And dharma was declared by Brahman for the advancement of growth of all the creatures. Therefore, that which leads to advancement of growth is dharma. That's what Bhishma says. So dharma was declared for the as advancement of and growth of all the creatures. So that's why the one that leads us advancement and growth, not in terms of wealth, as we just looked at from the Bhagavata Purana, but in terms of towards that moksha, advancement and growth towards that, what that leads is dharma. And dharma was declared for restraining the creatures from injuring one another. This is again what Manu said, ahimsa, not injuring others. And thus, therefore, dharma which prevents the injury to dharma is the one. Bhishma says that is dharma which prevents injury to creatures. Dharma is also Dharma is so called because it upholds all the creatures. Again, Dharanati Dharma we looked at, right? So it upholds all the creatures. And in fact, all the creatures are upheld by Dharma. Therefore, Dharma, which is capable of upholding all the creatures. So we looked at a couple of statements here from Bhishma. One is which leads to advancement and growth is Dharma. Another one is that upholds, capable of upholding all the creatures and restraining creatures from injuring one another. That's what Dharma is. And Bhishma also says that some says that Dharma consists in what is being inculcated in the Shrutis, but some do not agree to that. And Bhishma himself says that I would not disagree with anything they say, either of those parties. Everything again has not been laid out in the Shrutis itself. So that's why Bhishma also agrees with what Yudhishthira somewhat said. He says that the practice of the good, the Smritis, Vedas, these three are the indications of the sources of the Dharma. Those who practice good, the Rishi Munis, and what is said in the Smritis, what is said in the Vedas, these three are the indication or the sources of the Dharma. Besides this, the learned also have declared that the purpose for which an act is accomplished is the fourth indication of righteousness. So if we again go back to what Manu said that what is said in the Vedas, Smritis, the conduct of the good people, and what is one good for one, what one think is the right thing, those four are the indicators of Dharma. And Bhishma again explains that fourth part, right? He agrees with the first three, but he also explains about the fourth part. So when I think I'm doing Dharma, this is right, because I feel this is right, that feel right part has to be the purpose for which that act is conducted, the action is accomplished is important. That is, that has to be good. That has to align with these and dharmas. And following such a dharma, following that dharmic path leads to moksha. And this was said again in the Shanti Parva, where Bhrigu, for example, explains to Vasumanas. He says that when one has cleansed oneself of all the faults and sets oneself for the acquisition of dharma, that dharma in the next world proves to be productive of highest happiness. And he moves in companionship with the righteous. The one who moves in companionship with the dharma succeeds by his own energy in acquiring the means of accomplishing what is beneficial for him, and both in this world and the next world. So, and also while explaining such a dharma, similar to what Manu has said, Bhishma again says in the Anushasana Parva in Mahabharata, he says that ahimsa satyam akroda anrusham-sya dharmastada arjavam chaiva rajendra nishchitam dharma lakshanam. So Bhishma gives the lakshana of dharma, the indications of dharma. He says that ahimsa. Again, all these start with ahimsa first. Abstention from injury to others. Satyam, akrodam, truthfulness, absence of anger, forgiveness, having forgiveness, compassion, self-restraint, and sincerity or candor. These are the indications of dharma. So that's why it is important to follow and practice dharma, not just preach. So Bhishma says that the persons who wander over the earth praising dharma, but without practicing what they preach and engaged all in the wild in the sin. So there are persons who wander all over the earth preaching what is dharma is, but they do not follow and preach. They do not follow what they preach and engage, and they are always engaged in the sinful. But it is important to follow what is preached. So, and he explains that those men, on the other hand, who adore and observe dharma, those women who are devoted to truth and sincerity are the good ones. They always enjoy the pleasures and felicity of the heaven. And those that are gifted with wisdom, the rishis and others, they have said that the Brahmanas, who are the eldest sons of the Brahma, they represent Dharma. So how do we see physically Dharma? Bhishma says that Brahmanas are representation of Dharma. So they that are dharmic, righteous, always worship those Brahmanas, regarding them with as much love and affection. So we looked at Dharma's Lakshanas, definitions, Lakshanas, and physical form. If one has to see how Dharma looks, Bhishma says Brahmanas are representing the Dharmas. And in Ashrama Vasika Parva of Mahabharata, Vyasa tells Dhritarashtra that the aggregate of the three is the foremost of all concerns: abstention from injury to any creature, truth, and freedom from anger. So, etad the tritayam shreshta sarvabhuteshu bharata nirvairata maharaja satyam akroda evacha. So he says that again, the dharma lakshana, he says that abstention from injury, truth, and freedom from anger. So repeatedly, wherever we go, dharma lakshanas, these things come. And we see again, those such a followers of dharma must be respected by everybody. And yecha pakshadhara dharme sadrut ऋषयश्चये यान् दृष्टा हीयते papam tebhya karyanam apriyaha. So Astika tells Janamejaya after stopping his sacrifice, he tells him that they that are supporters of the wings of Dharma, they that are good conduct, excellent dispositions, they at the sight of whom sin will be destroyed, we should always bow to them. And this is again, Yudhishthira also says that Dharma is the only raft for those desirous of going to heaven, like a ship to a merchant who's desirous of crossing the ocean. So Dharma is the one should follow. The threefold purposes of Artha, Kama, Moksha have all their foundation in Dharma. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, when we say these four Purusharthas, all of them have foundation in Dharma, and the one that practices Dharma for the Dharma's sake always suffers. That's what Vanaparva we see in Vanaparva, for example, in Mahabharata, where the one following the Dharma for the sake of Dharma, following it, always suffers. He does not get any benefit. And we also see that study of Shastras, asceticism, gift, dana, faith, performance of sacrifices, forgiveness, sincerity of disposition, compassion, truth, self-restraint, these constitute the possessions of Dharma. And Dharma is again foremost point of the merit. Artha is the middle one. Kama is said by the wise as the lowest of the three. And for this reason, one should live with restrained soul, giving his attention to Dharma the most. One should also behave towards all creature as he should towards himself. That's again going back to ahimsa, forgiveness, and all those things. And those men who are among the good, considered as the good, those that are possessed of understanding, born by or cleansed by the Shastras, those that are contented are to be regarded as the foremost, and disregarding both pleasure and wealth, which is always follow Kama, one should awaken by the belief that only Dharma should be sought. One should follow that path. Conduct of such a person never goes wrong and never makes destructions, and also their sacrifices and Vedic studies, rites, and things like that always prove. And the conduct consisting of overt acts, behavior in respect of mental purity, and the Vedas together constitute Dharma. That's what Bhishma again explains. He says that ahimsa, satyam, akrodo, dhanam, etat chatushtayam, ajata shatru savasya dharma yesha sanatana. Abstention from injury, truth, absence of anger, that is forgiveness, liberality of gifts. These four Yudhishthira, you practice these four because these four constitute eternal dharma. They are sanatana. They are dharma yesha sanatana. They are eternal dharma. Always must be followed. And uh, he also says that you pursue that conduct towards brahmanas, which is consistent with what has been observed by your fathers and grandfathers, your ancestors, and they are these are the principles, indications of dharma. So again, following what's been followed by our ancestors, those are the principal indications of dharma. Again, here Yudhishthira's parents and grandparents, they followed those dharma. That's why that should be followed. He is advising them to follow. And brahmanas must be treated with hospitality, and you serve them always. The universe rests on that dharma, and it rests on the brahmanas. That's what Bhishma says. Dharma is nothing else than what we see is dharma is nothing else than the ancient dharma which is known to all, and this dharma consists of universal friendliness. It is fraught with beneficence for all the creatures. So that again, one is said to follow morality or dharma is always friend of all the creatures. So that's why ahimsa is important, and always engaged in the good of all the creatures in thought, word, and actions. That's why Yudhishthira, for example, in his Vanaparva, he looked at Yaksha Prashna, he says that liberality is the highest refuge of the virtue. And the one who is having restrained his senses, whose heart is cleansed from the desire of injuring others, and whose conduct is followed by those called good, that person is definitely attains the merit of dharma. And that is the outcome of dharma, that is the moksha, which is its fruits. Such a person one definitely attains. That's why one should practice what one considers to be one's duty, guided by the reasons as stated in the Vedas, instead of blindly following the practices of the world. One should never sacrifice dharma, virtue. If virtue is sacrificed, he sacrifices himself, is lost. That's why virtue also cherishes its cherisher. That's what is said. And therefore, taking care of that dharma by being sacrificed, may not sacrifice us, one should never give up the dharma. And abstention from injury, again, ahimsa paramo dharma. Abstention from injury is the highest virtue, even higher than highest even higher than highest object of attainment. So anything one could think of, it's higher than everything. So that's why one must always practice that dharma. So now, when we say dharma is in decline, there is two ways to look at it. One, dharma decline, why it declines. Okay, again there is Dharma himself, Brahma's son. Dharma was cursed by Padma, Pippalada's wife. Padma cursed him, saying that every yuga you will decline, and then she gave the option that every yuga declines. So in Satya Yuga, Dharma was standing on 4 legs. In Treta Yuga, 3 legs. In Dwapara, 2 legs, and in Kali Yuga, 1 leg. But towards the end of Kali Yuga, loses all the legs, but then again restored at the Satya Yuga with the 4 legs. So dharma, like that, declines. That means the effectively following of that dharma, the following the duties aligned with the varnashrama, as said in the Vedas, that's what declines. Okay. So again, dharma, we looked at all these definitions, but if we look at all this aligns with what Shankaracharya said in a few words, right, in the 6th shloka, when we looked at varnashramadi lakshanasya praninam abhidaya nishreyasa sadhanasya. So sadhana. So it is varnashrama lakshana, Okay, whatever that duties of assigned to the varnashrama. And praninam abhidaya. So it is for the advancement of that creature. That's what the dharma is. So that's what dharma is, and that varnashrama dharma one must follow. It is the means of achieving the moksha. Now, dharma declines means it doesn't mean dharma itself declines. What's said in the Vedas disappears. What means is the practices, those who practice disappear. They become less and less. So dharma is sometimes seen to be destroyed by the wicked people of great power. And again, but the truth is dharma is one and it is indivisible. So although it is capable of being viewed in three different forms as fully uh, working, or sometimes can be seen as it is declining or completely declined. So when the practice of such a dharma declines, Bhagavan says, Abhidhanam dharmasya tadatmanam sudhamyam. So Krishna, Bhagavan says that he will appear to be born again, taking his avatar again, and he will restore that. And same thing, similar to this shloka, 7th shloka, Abhidhanam dharmasya. So Paritrana sadhana vinasha dushkritam dharma samsthapanartha sambhavami. So again, similar to that, he says in the, for example, in the Drona Parva, after killing Gatotkaja, Krishna tells Arjuna, explaining why he killed the Rakshasas in this battle. He says that ye hi dharmasya loptaro vadhyaste mama pandava dharma samsthapanartam hi pratignaisha mamapiya brahma satyam dhamma shaucham dharmo hirihi shri dhritir kshama yatra tatra rame nityam aham satyena te shape. So, O Arjuna, they that are destroyers of the dharma are all slayable by me. They are all should be killed by me. Even that is the vow made by me for establishing the dharma, where the Vedas, the truth, self-restraint, purity, righteousness, modesty, prosperity, wisdom, forgiveness are always where all these are always to be met with. There, I myself always remain. That's what Krishna explains to Arjuna. We see this in Drona Parva after killing Gatotkaja. Right. So Arjuna asks, why did you kill one of our own? So Krishna explains that it is for the dharma. So where there are destroyers of the dharma, they're all killable by me. And same thing he says here in these shlokas as well, where he says paritrana sadhuna vinasha dushkritam dharma samsthapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So I will come back again and again in every yuga, every age, every time. I will come back whenever there is. Now, so that's the high level definition of dharma and when what happens when the decline comes through these shlokas. So now the question is, if the Kali Yuga it is so bad, why Bhagavan is not coming? Okay, Bhagavan may not be coming because our prayers are not, our devotion is not there, and our following of dharma is not there. And this is again, Mahasannidhanam keeps saying, Dharma Rakshana means we should not, Sringeri Jagadguru keeps saying, Dharma Rakshana means we should not take sticks and start beating somebody. We should start following our dharma. If everybody follows our dharma, then there is no need of Go Rakshana, Pada, Go Rakshana, and various other things that we see today. Right? We don't need all these things. We see all the problems because we are not following our dharma. If temples are looted by governments and various other things, that's because we are not following our dharma. If we follow our dharma and elect the right people, then dharma is going to be protected. So this is what Sannidhanam keeps saying in his Anugraha Bhashana. Recently said the same thing. Dharma Rakshana starts with following our dharmas. So if Bhagavan does not come every day and start protecting us, it is us. If we are followers of the dharma, he will protect us. So that's the message. With that, we will stop today and we will look at next sloka next time.